Okay, so we're going to do solving systems of equations by substitution. We did solving systems of equations graphically earlier in the year. This time we're going to do it algebraically. So we're not going to worry about getting our graphs back out right now. And we're also going to learn solving systems with elimination, but we're going to start with substitution. So let's look at the problem here. We have 2x minus y equals negative 1 and 3x plus y equals 6. So for right now, we're going to look at these as two separate equations. So we have 1 and 2. Okay, so let's look at the steps. The first step says to get either x or y by itself for one of the equations. So when I look at these, I see that y is already by itself in a term, and I want a positive y, so I'm going to use equation number 2 and get y by itself. So let's write that out. So let's see. We have 3x plus y equals 6. Okay, and I'm going to get y by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Okay. Now when I subtract 3x from both sides, on this side that it cancels out, so I get y equals. And when I look at the other side, 6 minus 3x, they are not like terms, so I cannot combine them. So I'm going to bring them down as separate terms. So y equals 6 minus 3x. Okay, so here I have, I'm outside, so it's a little bit loud. Here I have y by itself. Look here, I have y by itself. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, and remember this was from equation number 2, so I'm going to take this information and I'm going to plug it in for y in equation number 1. So again, I'm taking what y equals and I'm plugging it in for y in the first equation. So I'm going to put it in parentheses. So here, let's look at what that looks like. So now I have 2x minus, and I'm going to plug in 6 minus 3x equals negative 1. So again, all I did was I took the information here and I plugged it in for y here and put it in parentheses here. Okay, so now let's see. Now we're going to solve for x. So we solved for y to get y by itself. Now we're going to solve for x. So now I have, and I'm just going to rewrite this by distributing my negative. I have 2x minus 6 plus 3x, because negative 1 times negative 3x makes it a positive 3x, equals negative 1. Okay, I'm going to combine like terms, so I'm going to combine 2x and 3x, and I get 5x minus 6 equals negative 1. Now I'm just going to solve for x. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to write it up here. And that cancels my 6 out here, so I get 5x equals negative 1 plus 6 is 5. And now I'm going to divide by 5. And I get x equals 1. Okay, so now x equals 1. Now I'm going to substitute x equals 1 back into either one of my equations. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, because now I know that x equals 1. I have to solve for y and get y to equal a number. We already got y equals 6 minus 3x, but we want to plug it back in to one of our two equations to find the other variable. So let's plug that into equation number 1. So I have 2 times 1, because x is 1, minus y equals negative 1. 2 times 1 is 2, minus y equals negative 1. Subtract 2 from both sides, and I get negative y equals negative 3. We know that, rewrite that, negative y equals negative 3. We know that y can't be negative, so we're going to divide each side by negative 1, and we get y equals 3. Okay, so we have y equals 3. So then our answer is x equals 1, y equals 3. Now, did we end up with an equation that is a true statement, such as x equals 3 or 0 equals 0? The equation in a system are identical. Lines of the equations are overlapping each other. All equations graph the same line. There are infinitely many solutions. If we ended up with a false statement, such as 1 equals 5, then they would not be equal to each other, and we would say there's no solution. There's one solution here, and the solution is that x equals 1, y equals 3. That is our solution. X equals 1 and y equals 3. Or we could write it as a coordinate 1, 3. Okay, so let's do a couple more together. And some of these are already solved for us. So really all we're doing here, and here's another way you can do it, we call the box and ship method. So we're going to, when we have it like this where y already equals something, we're going to box and ship to where it equals y. So in this case, we're going to rewrite this to say x plus 1, which is y, equals 2x minus 1. So I just took the information from my first equation, because y was already ready to go, and I just plugged it in for y in my second equation. So now I'm solving for x. So I have x plus 1 equals 2x minus 1. I'm going to combine, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, and I get negative x plus 1 equals negative 1. I'm going to subtract 1. And I get negative x equals negative 2. I can't have a negative x, so I have to divide both sides by negative 1. And x equals positive 2. So I'm going to take this x equals positive 2, and I'm going to plug it in for x. And I'm just going to plug it into equation number 1. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to plug it in here. So now I have to solve for y. So I have y equals 2, because that's what x is, plus 1. Y equals 3. And that's my answer. You will always have an x equals something and a y equals something. And you can just simply leave it like this. X equals 2, y equals 3. Okay, so let's just prove it. If I were to plug 3 in for y, so now I'm going to look here again. I'm going to plug 3 in for y, so I have 3 equals, I'm going to plug 2 in for x, 2 plus 1. And this is coming, let me just rewind here. This is coming from y equals x plus 1, which is right here. And I'm plugging in my answers now. 3 for y, so y equals 3 equals 2, because x is 2, plus 1, and I get 3 equals 3. And that is a true statement, so I know that both of my answers are correct. Let's do one more. I have my two equations, y equals 2x and 7x minus y equals 15. Here's 1, here's 2. I'm going to use the first one because it's already solved for y for me. So I'm going to take my 2x and I'm going to plug it in for y in my second equation. So now I have 7x minus 2x equals 15. 7x minus 2x gives me 5x equals 15. And I just divide by 5 to get x by itself, and I get x equals 3. Okay, so now x equals 3. And I'm going to take that 3, and I'm going to just plug it into that original problem. So I'm going to plug it in for x right here. So when I rewrite it, I get y equals 2 times 3, because that's what x equals. Y equals 6. And if I want to check myself, I'm going to plug in my original problem. So y equals 2x. I'm going to plug in my x answer and my y answer. So I get 6 equals 2 times 3. And 6 equals 6. So I am good to go. There's my solution, is x equals 3, y equals 6. Okay, go ahead and do these last two on your own and turn your notes in, and there will be a practice to follow, and we'll do this over the course of a couple days. Let me know if you have any questions.